Well, the Stadia Connect has now come and gone, and was it what we all expected it to be? We're going to be fully breaking down everything that happened. We're going to discuss the highs, we're going to discuss the lows. We're going to really take a look at what the future holds for Google Stadia, because I think this Connect showed there is really a bright future. I think a lot of people missed that, so we will talk about that portion. We're also going to talk about the games that were announced. This is going to be a longer video than usual, so watch for the timestamps for what information you're looking for. With that said, subscribe to this channel for all your cloud gaming and Stadia coverage, as well as hit that notification bell for when my videos drop. But let's start this video with my quick initial thoughts and then go forward from there. And the first thing that I actually want to touch on is who I feel this Connect was aimed at. And you guys have been hearing from me for weeks that this Connect I was hoping for was going to be mostly aimed at a newer audience. And it was. But man, it was not a pretty sight in my opinion in that regard. I'll give you guys my final thoughts on the end on why that really was. But let's talk about the first thing they did, and that was market Stadia to new users with Pro and the Premier Edition drop in price for about 3 minutes. But what they focused on was the click to play feature, which once again was not marketed at the already current player base, but the new consumers. Now, the click to play has been around for quite some time. It's a flawed Stadia feature and not how I would have started marketing Stadia at the Stadia Connect, including talks about instant gaming. Unfortunately, as a new user, when you click this button, you don't actually go into a game right then and there like they claim. You typically go into prompts that will ask you at the minimum to sign up for the Pro membership. I would like to see a click to play literally be that. You click without anything but a Google account and you're off with maybe a free small demo of the game being featured. At the moment, you're prompted with a sign up or doing all sorts of things before you can literally click to play like they say. It's a flawed feature and not one that I would have made a big deal out of, and this was unfortunately a blunder at the very start of the Connect. But then we move on to the games portion, and once again we are met with highs and lows here all around. Let's talk about the first game showcased in Super Bomberman R64 Online. This is a game that actually has been out since 2018 from Konami Digital Entertainment. It does not have a super great reception. It has mixed reviews all around. But the twist here is the Stadia version is getting a 64 online portion. Unfortunately, unless a streamer like myself showcases this game, I fully expect the 64 player portion of this to struggle to get enough players. With that said, I don't want to be fully negative, as I think this is a pretty neat get. It will also feature full crowd play, and they even show yet another example of clicking the button via the YouTube and joining the game with the streamer. I personally can't wait to stream this myself and get as many of you involved if this is a free pro game. But if it isn't, then in my opinion this is dead on arrival. Unfortunately, overall it's a solid get. Not exactly though what I would have liked to have seen from Konami, but glad that this port has a big 64 player twist, and that does make it a unique title for Stadia. Now, the next game presented at this Connect is a game that I'm actually really excited for, even despite the fact that it's an older title. And please hear me out, because I think you guys will be as well. Dead by Daylight is coming to Stadia. But not only is it coming, it's coming with both crowd play and crowd choice. This is a game that I reviewed in full last year on the Switch, and it's the best of its kind in the genre of this 4-player versus 1 mashup. You have 4 survivors and 1 killer. Your job is to kill all 4 to win or survive until the end from the killer. This is a game I would fully dive into on my own with my own free time a lot last year. But the full integrated Stadia features make for some real cool community interaction. But that's not what excites me about this port over to Stadia. From the rumors from the Dead by Daylight community, there will be full cross-platform soon, and I expect cross-play with PC players at some point. Overall, this is a great get, and if you haven't dived into this game, you're gonna enjoy it. It's the game that I never saw myself get into. That is, until I started playing it myself and found it surprisingly addicting. And you have a progression tree and skills to build both the killers and survivors. Don't let this one get away from your radar. And then the next new title, one that had been leaked and talked about, is Hello Neighbor and Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek, which is the prequel to Hello Neighbor, with the former releasing on September and Hide and Seek coming this winter. Now, Hello Neighbor is a stealth horror game about sneaking into your neighbor's house and figuring out what he's hiding in the basement. It's a well-received game, it's a good get for Stadia, and one of those filler titles that some will come to enjoy, but there's nothing big to note here outside the fact that both the original and Hide and Seek will come as pro games when they do launch on Stadia. And then we got One Hand Clapping. This is another title that had a surprise drop on the Stadia store at this Connect. It comes in at a friendly price of $2.99, and that is because it's in early access. It does make it the cheapest game on Stadia. I haven't had a chance to dive into this, but it's a game where you solve puzzles by singing into your microphone. Now, the Sunny community here knows I love singing, so I'll give this a go and see if it's any good, but I was surprised to see the cheap price, but it is welcomed. No complaints here. It's an obvious indie title, but I feel these titles have their place. Then the next title really excited me for its release coming to Stadia, but it wasn't all good news. That was Outriders, a Square Enix title, but it's not coming until 2021, while this releases on holidays everywhere else. The gameplay does look solid. It's another looter shooter cover game, but the gameplay reminds me a lot of like Anthem and Destiny put together. We'll see how this title plays out in the coming months, but I was definitely disappointed that we are not getting it on the release as everywhere else, and it's getting a big delay for Stadia. And now the next game actually had me jumping for joy, and while it isn't a brand new title, this is easily one of the best games coming to Stadia and the game of the year for 2019 in Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Developed by From Software, the makers of Bloodborne and the Dark Souls series, this is a title that I actually think will make some slight noise for Stadia. It's a title that, while even now a year old, brings a genre missing from the Stadia lineup in a Souls-like game, but might give some people a thought about trying it on Stadia if they thought about playing the game specifically in a more handheld way. It's also a game that requires such precise timing, near instant reactions, that it's a perfect game that really showcases how good this Stadia platform really is. This one for me was one of the Connect highlights, and it's a title that if you haven't dived into, you'll get to fully enjoy when it releases this fall. And so moving on further into the Connect, with us knowing Hello Neighbor is a September Pro game, we got yet another announcement for a September Pro game in Hitman 1, with Hitman 2 releasing right alongside it as a non-pro game. And then we got a release date for Hitman 3 coming in January. And this is an absolute popular series in the Hitman franchise, and it's making its way to Stadia, and it's one of my personal favorites since I was a kid. This was yet another positive announcement, including the fact that we're getting the first Hitman as a pro title game, and that gives us yet more games dropping on Stadia to really look forward to. But then moving on to what is arguably, in my opinion, the biggest news to drop out of this Connect, the news that I had been hoping for and watching for, and they did deliver in some ways, and well, in some ways they absolutely didn't. But we finally got to hear from Stadia Games and Entertainment, the studios that will be making Stadia first-party titles. Not only that, but they go on during this Connect to announce that they are working with 3 developers who will be making more Stadia exclusive titles, starting with Harmonix, the makers behind Rock Band and Guitar Hero, two extremely beloved classics, Uppercut Games, the makers of Submerged, an excellent and unique indie game that came out in 2015 and has thousands of positive reviews, also well received, and finally Supermassive Games, the makers of Until Dawn, a game that was published by Sony and is a AAA title that once again was well received with Metacritic scores at around 80%. Well received reviews, and it's a title that still stands up even today. These three studios will be working with Stadia Games and Entertainment, and this might have been arguably the best news to come out of this Connect, and for good reason, and one of the few pieces of information that wasn't necessarily catered to a new audience, but to instill some confidence in our Stadia investment. Now, looking at two of these studios in Harmonix, who will probably release a musical game, one that we can hope will be on quality with the Rock Band in Guitar Hero games, and then we have Supermassive Games, who made a big title already. The potential for some huge games coming to Stadia is, in my opinion, pretty big here. Now, Uppercut Games will probably bring in an immersive, environmental indie type game, so I don't have much to say about that. But the other two are two studios that you guys should watch out for, because they have the potential to bring two new titles that we will get exclusively on Stadia. For me, this was easily the biggest and most shocking news of this whole Connect. And while we didn't get to see what they are already working on, this does have the potential to be pretty huge down the line. Stadia Games and Entertainment wasn't done with just those announcements of new studios working exclusively with Stadia. We finally got to see what Splash Damage is doing, and well, I wasn't impressed, at least not yet. Outcasters, a Stadia exclusive, which, by the way, if you missed the disclaimer, it's a Stadia exclusive for just a limited time, so it's not an outright Stadia exclusive game. But it showcases a weird top-down player versus player game where you're doing trick shots, hot shots to take out your opponent. Visually, the game doesn't show much, and honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys, it looks like a phone game on the surface. This isn't exactly what I wanted to see as a brand new exclusive from the makers of titles in the past like Brink, Dirty Bomb, and Gear Tactics. This was a low point in the Connect in my opinion, and this kind of inflated pretty much I think all of us watching this live, and rightfully so, as we wanted to see a new Stadia exclusive bringing something big. This just didn't make that mark, and I think this game is what really brought people to look unfavorably at this Connect as a whole. With that said, I'm going to keep an open mind, because this game fell victim to it being presented poorly. It should not have been featured as a Stadia exclusive at the Connect, but instead at a community blog where it would have been a lot more well received. It does look like it has some fun elements, and I think as a community we are going to enjoy this game, but it's not what we were expecting. But I will be giving it a go, and happily do so when it comes this fall. And the next thing, if you guys haven't realized it by now, Orcs Must Die 3, something that had already been leaked, has been confirmed as a pro game launched now. This was an excellent get for Stadia as a short-timed exclusive, one so far that the community has been well receiving. It's a great game. It got a bit overshadowed by the Connect that had people expecting a bit more. With that said, give this game a try if you haven't already, if you're a pro member. It's a solid title. I enjoy it quite a bit myself, but the excitement of this one left the air a bit since we've known about it for a week that it was coming to Stadia. But if you're brand new completely to this platform, it is one of the best games that's on Stadia Pro right now, and it's available to play at this moment, so give it a shot. And the last thing they covered in general, and I skipped over a few parts, was talking about games already on the platform or already announced and aimed at the new users. They talked about Elder Scrolls Online, PUBG's getting a new season, games that already been confirmed from 2K like PGA Tour 2K21, NBA 2K21, and a few others that we already know as a whole. With that said, Overall, let's finally dive into my final thoughts on this Connect as a whole. And truth be told, this Connect once again was not aimed at all at any of us already on this platform, with the exception of the one portion talking about the new studios working on exclusives for Stadia. In general, this was something that I did want to see leading up to this Connect, and that was personally catering to the new player base, but it was not done in a way that I wanted to at all. There were several emphasis placed on the click to play, a pretty useless feature until they take out the prompts that lead to the actual click to play part. Please Stadia, please fix that. It's not good, and it really is pretty misleading and not exactly what I would feature, because it's only useful to those already fully on the platform. And even if you're on the platform, you can't really click to play the game because you still have to buy it. So you still go through several prompts. It's a neat feature, don't get me wrong, but it's not one to highlight in my opinion. Then when you look at the overall presentation, while I did want emphasis on new users, they started it off perfect, highlighting how good Stadia Pro is. I mean, I made a whole video dedicated to how much good value it brings. That was the right start. But then talking about click to play, my goodness, please Miss Timney, hit up Sunny so we can talk about how to really market Stadia together, because that portion of it wasn't what it needed to be, and honestly it was a waste of time, and it would have been better served showcasing the other more convenient factors Stadia brings. Then to start off with Bomberman as a showcase just made the Connect start off kinda sour at the start. Then it ramped up with great titles like Sekiro, Outriders, Hitman, but then it brought us all back down with the Outlanders announcement. It was like riding an emotional roller coaster, going down and then up and then down, and then finished with us getting punched in the face for our efforts of even being on the ride to begin with. The Connect should have flowed in a whole different way, with some of the indie type games near the first half of the portion of it, and then hitting us with the bigger hitters towards the second half of the Connect. With all that said, while I have been negative, when you truly look at the overall Connect, I still walk away mostly positive, and for very good reasons. And I think you guys should be encouraged too. I think we all just fell victim to a poorly constructed Connect. We got announcements of excellent titles coming to Stadia, with actual Stadia features: Dead by Daylight, Orcs Must Die 3, again Sekiro, Outriders, the Hitman series, with some nice games in between announced like Bomberman, Hello Neighbor. Solid looking titles to really fill in those tight gaps, because we do have a crap ton of heavy hitters coming in the next 6 months. Ubisoft titles, Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry, 2K titles in PGA Tour, NBA, Mafia Trilogy, as well as Cyberpunk, and all the EA games like Star Wars, FIFA, Madden. I mean guys, the second half of this year is freaking stacked beyond stacked. It's easy to look at this small window with this Connect and feel disappointed. But if you take a step back, like I am, and what I've been doing, we honestly have so much to look forward to. But I get it. This Connect will be mired in the things we didn't get. And I get that disappointment too. We didn't see Apex, Hyperscape, or any competitive multiplayer shooter. We didn't see announcements for some games like I wanted to see Star Wars Squadron. We can really make a list of just huge things that we just didn't get to see. But well, we all have our personal preferences. Every single one of us will have games on a list that we want to see and that we just haven't seen. And I get that point of view. But I would encourage you guys to take a positive look at this. On top of all the games I just said we're getting from here and early 2021, Stadia is still working on exclusive titles from their own studios themselves. The actual specific cloud games we're looking forward to, and being built just for Stadia and Stadia only. Not only that, but new studios being announced to work on exclusive titles is just the cherry on top. We're set to see quite a few Stadia exclusive games coming in the next 12 months, and from some good developers to boot, not just indie devs. When I sat back and I rewatched this Connect, I realized we are getting a crap ton of things to really dive into, but I get this anxiousness and I get being upset. Next gen consoles are around the corner. We wanted to see the biggest of big splashes. We just didn't get that mic drop moment that we were all desperately hoping for. Stadia has work to do. They need to continue to market this better. They need to continue to finish rolling out features like family sharing, mobile data, more countries, YouTube streaming, and hopefully we get to see one more Connect where they finally have everything mostly out, all features, more access, all by the end of the year. Then they come out with that big first-party exclusive we desperately need to see, and finally have that moment that blows us all away and forces everyone to have to pay attention to Stadia. Let's hope that we're going to see that in the coming months. Alright, this was a long video, so I apologize, but I don't want this video to just be all my thoughts. Please let me know all your highs and your lows with this Connect down below. What did they do right? What are you excited about? What did they get wrong? What are you disappointed about? What do you hope to continue to see going forward? These are things we need to continue to voice to the Stadia team, as they are listening, they are watching, and we need for them to hear us out. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to know when my videos go live, check out my Twitch where I do stream every week, and watch for my live streams here on YouTube as well. Alright guys, I'm Sunny, and I'll see you guys in the cloud.